You're listening to You Can Fix That in Post with Simon, Dave, and Elise. And the topic, which is Elise's topic, is revenge films. Okay, so we're talking about what constitutes a revenge film, and what we are saying is that it has to be explicit that from the start, the main character is out for revenge.
Yeah, it's not something that is in the last 5 minutes. Oh, and you want to know why I was doing all this? For revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not uncommon in the horror genre.
Yeah. So, I mean, the genres people think about typically are westerns or action. So, I mean, what I think about that comes immediately to mind is The Crow, which is supernatural in some, well, most elements.
Yeah.
Heavily stylized, and it's a film that comes with all the baggage of obviously what happened on set, but beyond that is amazing.
Oh yeah, brilliant. It's quite genre bending as well. It's heavily influenced by like your supernatural Return from the Dead films, but at the same time it's quite cyberpunk.
Yeah.
In its visuals, very 90s.
Very 90s.
Very 90s.
For me, it looks like a comic.
It does, yeah.
Like if someone said to me, it looks kind of like a 90s version of Sin City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd go, I can kind of see that. I feel like it's a bit tarnished by the fact that they made 3 or 4 sequels. And they made a TV series which they condensed to a film. So there was like Stairway to Heaven, there was City of Angels, and it was just like, how many relatively attractive people can we put in white makeup with like black eyes?
Yeah. I think it's probably suffered a lot because it's become infamous for the onset accident that led to Brandon Lee's death. And because I think if it hadn't have been tarnished by that, it would have been an even bigger hit than what it was.
Or it would have been appreciated for different things.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it would have been appreciated. Like, it would have launched his career in a massive way.
Yeah.
Because he just
knocks
it out of the park with that role. Like, he does a lot with that role.
Then you got to think about the poor bastard who actually shot him, who's just an actor and is not a props guy.
Michael Massey kind of ruined his career, didn't it?
Mm. The other thing I like about it is that I think Ernie Hudson is one of the best actors I know of. And everyone knows, who's Ernie Hudson? Oh, he's the token black guy from the Ghostbusters franchise. And it's like, yeah, but if you ever see him things like HBO's, like one of their original series, Oz, if you see him in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, where he's playing a guy with an intellectual disability, amazing in that. And in The Crow, he's playing, your flatfoot, detective. But he's also very...
He's kind of the grounding influence of the film. He's like the audience's way into the film.
Yeah.
He's kind of the straight man to Brandon Lee's hyper stylized
crazy person.
Crazy character, yeah.
And he's also that kind of view of, what? A guy's come back from the dead and he's doing stuff? Really?
Yeah, I'm just gonna roll with that.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess so. And if I can accept it, then you, the audience, can accept it too.
Yeah.
And Ernie Hudson is in, like, my favorite, one of those films where it's just like, it's so bad, it's amazing, which is Congo. Where he's got a British accent and it's like, Tim Curry is from the Lost City and, Yoka Milka Milka from Romania. And, it's amazing. But, I mean, so thinking about The Crow, like, Brandon Lee hadn't really done much till then. He'd done crap action adventure films that really didn't amount to much. So there was Showdown in Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren. but that was about it. And obviously the famous name because of his father and the mysterious circumstances behind his father's death, and
But he just oozes charisma in this film.
he just oozes it.
He oozes it. He's just magnetic.
He's just oozing.
You want to stare at him. He's a gorgeous looking guy. And it's in poorer hands it would have been a very hammy role.
Yeah.
Hammy role. It would have it would have it could very easily have become caricature.
Yeah.
But you know who he reminds me of, and you're probably gonna laugh at this. He reminds me of like The Rock of Dwayne Johnson. Like something about him just being so charismatic on screen. I'm like, wow, if things had have turned out differently, I think he would have had a really huge career.
Yeah, I think he would have, but I think this is going to sound bad because I like The Rock, but for different reasons. Brandon Lee being called The Rock for me is insulting to Brandon Lee.
What? Look, you don't have to be an awesome actor to be an incredible movie star.
Which is exactly why I like The Rock, but his level of talent or his degree of what he's achieved was not what Brandon Lee achieved in The Crow. Like if someone said to me, "Oh, how many years is it till The Rock gets an Oscar?" I'd say it would be quite some time.
For acting? No,
Yeah.
it's never going to happen. For producing, maybe.
I think part of the reason why Brandon Lee's in that role and why it works well is because the character is a rocker. He's supposed to be sexy, he's supposed to be crazy lifestyle. And Brandon Lee, to me, looks like, in that film, what I would imagine people would idealize and want to see on the stage as a rocker.
Yeah.
And the problem
but not with the negative connotations. Like, he seems to live quite a clean and tidy lifestyle, and that you know, he doesn't have the comically large plate of Coke that the bad guy has in that scene. Which I just burst out laughing with that. I'm like, look at that pile of Coke. That is just insanity. It's so good.
Well,
but you know, he's got his wife, and he's got his his fiance, and he's got his adopted child that they look after, and he's all heart, really.
He reminds me of the British guy in Dead Man on Campus who wants to portray this I'm loathing and I don't like myself, but in reality he doesn't have a British accent and he likes
he's doing ballet.
Yeah. I guess what I feel like with Brandon Lee is that unlike all the sequels where they've just kind of gone, this is a moderately attractive guy in leather with, you know,
with the black face paint or the black and white face paint,
that he has that kind of level of charisma. And there's a reason why, you know, all the Halloweens after that, there's always some guy who's dressing up as the Crow because everyone's like, "Ooh, that guy's so sexy and so mysterious." And I don't know, the sequels didn't follow; they were just crap. And I don't think I look at The Rock and go, "You know what? I'd like to see him as the Crow. He'd be so sexy."
What about Jason Momoa then? Because that's who they've got for the reboot.
I could see that.
He's got the sexy thing down.
He's got that kind of dark, smouldering thing going. My only problem with that is that when you look at Brandon Lee is very lanky. Well, he's just average. When you look at his body, I don't particularly think, oh, he's not
the roided out look that Jason Momoa has at the moment.
And the thing of that is that the Crow doesn't need to be roided out. It's the fact that he can't die that makes him...
That's his powers.
Yeah. And if you have Jason Momoa, it's like his powers are he can't die, and he's also...
he can punch you through a wall.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how I feel about that, but you know what?
Whether they change his physicality for that,
or whether or not, you know, it's just taken in a different place. Like, you're talking about the giant pile of Coke, and we're going to call out previous episodes and stuff. The guy who's got the giant bowl of Coke is from Alien Resurrection. Mm-hmm. And he's also from,
Today's episode is brought to you by a giant pile of Coke.
So if there is any sponsors out there who need to give us a giant pile of Coke, we are in Frankston, so, you know, we can get a bit of money for it.
We can move it quite easily.
Yeah. So he's also in, like, you know, he's so typecast for bad guys.
And the wig he's wearing
is
is
pretty bad.
very low rent.
He plays the bad guy alongside Alan Rickman in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Oh, that's where I know him from.
It's like, Robin of Locksley, it's like, I'll cut your heart out with a spoon. He's like, why a spoon, cousin? It's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more. That's that guy.
Okay, so as long as we're on the subject of the bad guy in this film, I need some things clarified because I had missed this film growing up. Like, it came out in 94. I was 9 years old. It was just way over my head as a child.
Yep.
So I just missed it as a young adult as well. I only saw this film recently for this podcast. I need this cleared up. Is the bad guy, is that his sister? The sidekick girl that's like can see the future and stuff? They have a weirdly sexual vibe.
They have a very sexual vibe, and I don't remember it being implicit that they were related. I feel like it was implied. I feel like there was a bit of weirdness there, but it's not like at any point they cut to their birth certificates and went, oh.
Because he says something about having that they are related. He says something about it. And then they have this, but their opening scene is them like post-coital with this girl that they've, banged to death. And I'm just like, what? Are they Game of Thronesing before
well, I would say Game
popular?
of Thronesing is crowing then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really kind of cornered the market on
gross
siblings.
They're the bad guys. They've got a giant bowl of Coke and they're killing people. So yeah, I don't think...
And that makes it okay?
No, I'm not saying any of this is okay. I'm just saying that, sometimes bad guys and incest go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Not all the time. I hope not. My problem with the idea of Jason Momoa... Momoa?
Yeah, that's his name.
Playing that role, they would have to change so many elements of it for it to be less of, let's just watch this guy kick the shit out of people because he's huge. One of the classic examples, to throw out another one from previous episodes, is the fact that the original Terminator wasn't supposed to be Arnie. It wasn't supposed to be this unstoppable force that's able to kill you because he's so buff and strong. It was originally played by Lance Henriksen, a weedy guy who went into the pitch to the studio with James Cameron with tinfoil stuck on half of his face. He went in there... And it was just like, on one side of the face, he looks like Lance Henriksen. On the other side, he looked like the Terminator. And the premise there was, the Terminator could be anyone. He could be in a crowd, he's just an unassuming guy, and you don't know you're dead until bang. But then, when they recast Arnie, they went, no, let's change the script. It's going to be this unstoppable force. That works amazingly.
Yeah.
I can't see how Momoa can be I'm powerful because I can't die thing. I just see him as Aquaman.
Yeah, like the full-on biceps as big as your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does, it does kind of... Like, it sways the the powers in his favour. Which is, it does kind of... Yeah, it defeats the purpose of the whole...
Yeah.
Normal guy brought back to life.
But, here's the thing. If they make it, when they make it, I'll see it. And
people will see it, yeah.
And beyond seeing it, it might be good. You never know. You can't just assume it's going to be crap.
He's got the charisma as well. Like
he's got the charisma.
He's got that screen presence that people
Panache.
like. It's like no one's saying that Justice League movie was good, but he was a draw for that.
I think that's literally what everyone said. No one said. There wasn't one out there.
0% on Rotten Tomatoes says. No one likes that film, but yeah.
Okay, so The Crow. We say it's amazing. So what's the next one? What's the modern take on the revenge thing?
I think the action film has really taken over the revenge.
The guy who knows Kung Fu. And he's like, whoa. Yeah.
We're talking John Wick.
Yeah, and Keanu.
Keanu's amazing.
Keanu is amazing.
He's such an underrated action hero.
This is going to sound really bad. He's better than Harrison Ford, but he is a plank of wood. That is to say, when I look at classical action heroes like an Arnie or a Sly or a Dolph or a Van Damme,
He's very different.
It's not,
to
I've got
that.
so many muscles. It's just like, I'm an everyday guy who you can relate to doing stuff. And I have a top 5 action films of all time, and he is in 2 of them. And there are certain limits to that, which is you can't have elements of sci-fi. So you can't go, oh, Predator. No, there's friggin' aliens in there. So, Speed, an amazing action film.
Yeah.
Point Break, amazing action. Now, I don't particularly think he can act great. I think he does a serviceable job. I think if you watch Bram Stoker's Dracula, you're kind of like,
yeah.
What's going on here?
Why was he cast in that role?
And he's in, like, Bill and Ted's amazing. But John Wick, I hadn't felt like I'd been in the presence of Keanu for years. I felt like he just kind of disappeared after Constantine. And then...
his personal life is quite tragic. Like, his girlfriend died in a freak accident. And then I think he's had family members that have died very suddenly. He's had quite a tragedy-marred life.
Yeah.
But I think what is the massive drawcard in John Wick is that he took on the role saying, I'm going to do as much of the stunts for this that I can. And he worked his ass off. Like, he, sweated and bled for this film, and it shows on screen because the action sequences are second to none. Yeah,
the action sequences are amazing. And beyond there's lots of headshots with the gun and stuff like that. All the kind of grappling, ground and pound MMA stuff, that's amazing. And then when you think, okay, we're not filming this, we're recording this in 2018. So I know the film's a little bit older now.
2014, yep.
But he was like 50.
Yeah.
When he made this. And
he's not a 30-year-old guy.
Yeah. And when I look at him, I could go, yeah, you could probably pass for, say, late 30s to mid-40s. But even so, you're 50 and you're kicking the shit out of these people and everything looks real. Like
gritty and real and dirty and painful.
Yeah. And in terms of revenge films, I mean, it's one of those
things... He killed his puppy!
Yeah. But it all comes down to
his puppy.
The perspective of the character, because that puppy was the world to him because of the circumstances.
This is the other thing that I really like about John Wick. His wife didn't get murdered and raped. No, they killed his fucking dog, and so he's going to kick their asses.
And I can't remember if they raped the puppy.
They just stomped it to death.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so tragic.
And
do you know the opening of this film is the same as Up?
Ooh.
Let that one sink in.
Yeah.
The cold open of this film is like, oh, him and his wife, and then his wife gets sick and dies, and you're like, oh, now he's sad. And then the puppy comes along, and instead of a puppy Up, it's a small child. But
I would argue that the opening of John Wick is actually him sitting on a dock, dying, looking at his phone.
Yeah, but then he gets another puppy, and it's okay.
Yeah, that's the end.
He survives, and he gets another puppy.
Yeah, and I found it interesting, the dog that he chose. And then afterwards I went, what animal shelter is this? Is this an animal shelter? Or has he just stolen someone's dog?
Someone's dog from
and it's just
vet.
Like, you have gone on a murderous rampage because someone killed your dog, and now you've stolen someone's dog.
He needed that dog, man.
Yeah.
The dog was to be put down.
How do we know that?
It's said on the cage.
It's said on the cage?
Yeah.
Well, then I feel a whole lot better.
Okay, well, that's all right then.
I should have...
saved the dog.
Yeah.
And that puppy at the start is like, it's like nuclear weapons cute as well.
Yeah.
It's like a little beagle or something, and it's just adorable.
The reason why I like this film, beyond the action and being reacquainted with Keanu after so many years...
You have to say his name like that?
Yeah, I do. It's like, whoa, good noodles or whatever it is. I like this film because of the universe it creates.
Yes.
Like
it's
the
so
Continental
good with the world building.
And the idea
coins.
The coins are amazing, and you can't, spill blood on the grounds of the Continental, and if you do, the repercussions.
Well, yeah, they take someone out for doing that.
Yeah, and Ian McShane is good for like what is a cameo, and the sequel in my opinion, holds up as well. And people can kind of go, oh, it's the same as the first. It's like, well, it's not really. There is elements of it that's the same.
It's building on the foundations
of this universe.
Of the universe, yeah. Like, it's not the same story by any means.
Mm. I think of what they're going to do with the TV series, because apparently Keanu is producing the TV series, and it's going to be called The Continental, which is going to be about the comings and goings of that hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be great as well. I actually thought this was based off a comic book. There was just something about it that just rang like a comic book.
Yeah, it does. The world building actually feels very comic
booky. And then I was looking online to see, oh, I want to get all these comic books. And it's like, yeah, they don't really exist. They've made comic books after the film because it did so well. But no, it's just, it was actually based off a story of this Navy SEAL who, his dog was like kidnapped or killed or whatever it was.
Oh my god, there's a real puppy?
There was like a break and enter.
Oh
and
my god.
his dog was called Daisy.
Oh no.
So this Navy SEAL tracks down like these 4 guys, and it's like a high-speed chase.
Oh, that guy's a freaking hero.
But that's about it. Like, I don't think there's much to it.
And they're like, there's like we can work with this.
Well, we've got the opening
scene. Like, a guy
scene.
goes after people for taking his dog.
Yeah, and the guy's not
don't mess with the guy's dog.
Yeah. Well, that's a rule. You don't hurt animals. You don't hurt children, and I think that's about it.
Everything else is fair game.
Yeah.
So, at the end of John Wick 2, did any of you find that it was sort of the whole idea of the coins and the building and the community get a bit far-fetched to like every second person was a murderer?
Was a contract killer.
Okay, is that because they flocked to the state for the $7 million?
Well, no, because obviously they get the text message there saying contract out then.
Yep.
So I don't think they just had an inkling.
Yeah. I don't have been there normally. Yeah.
I like the universe.
Yep.
I think that it's setting up for being more intricate and detailed than what the first film had.
Yeah.
And obviously more than what the second film had. The fact that they're making a TV series called The Continental,
which I think is a great idea. Yeah.
I think they're just kind of going, oh, the reason why people like these films is Keanu and the action. The reason why they can watch them again and read more into it and enjoy them more than that is the universe.
Yes.
That's the difference between these films and anything Liam Neeson's done in the last 10 years.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Like, that was fun. I'm going to eat some popcorn and watch this action movie. And then I'm going to walk out. I'm going to forget it forever.
Leave him alone.
Yeah, he's just made some dodgy choices in the last 10 years.
He has, but I'm sure he's made some good bank.
Yes.
True.
I never thought that Liam Neeson would be an action star. Liam Neeson, the idea of him being an action star is like, what is he? He's Oscar Schindler, and he's in Leap of Faith, and it's just... He's Aslan. But if someone said to me, oh yeah, this tall, British, lanky, Irish, I don't want to get death threats.
He's very Irish.
Yeah. I could never have seen him as being an action star. I think he's...
Particularly in his freaking 60s.
Yeah. I think he's appealing to like a whole bunch of baby boomers who are just like, I could kick the shit out of someone. We're still relevant.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You're probably right. Yeah. It's all the baby boomers thinking, we're not losing our virility. Yeah. We're fine.
It's that special target audience between the baby boomers and between Harry Brown and Gran Torino. It's like, yes, we can kill them too.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. And that brings us to our next topic, which is Westerns.
Yes. Where Clint made his bank.
Yes. Rawhide to begin with, and then you got your spaghetti Westerns. But the idea of revenge in the Western genre is the thing. It's like, oh, look, his wife and kids have been killed on the property, and he's just a humble farmer or whatever it is. And now he's going to take his, revenge on those bad bandits.
Take your 6-shooter and kill some Indians.
So that was the kind of convention of a lot of those Westerns. But I'm going to talk about a Western that actually goes against our concept of the revenge film. We get little sprinkles of information throughout the film that lets us know that something is going on and that this person is motivated by something other than what we would be led to believe. It is Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead. Now, for one thing, it's a Western that's in the 90s, which, the Western genre by the 80s and 90s was relatively dead. There
wasn't a lot of them around anymore.
It wasn't the staple. It used to be that Westerns were like, you'd get a B film at the drive-in, there'd be one, action, and then you'd always have your B film as the Western. And John Wayne and all that kind of stuff, your Glenn Fords and all that.
It was very golden age of Hollywood.
Yeah. And then in the 80s, you got, your Young Guns, and that's about it.
That's about it.
And then in the 90s, The Quick and the Dead for me. And you look at the cast of this thing and you go, Sam Raimi, didn't you direct Evil Dead? Isn't there zombies and shit in that? Yeah, and now you're directing this Western with Gene Hackman, Sharon Stone, Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio, future stars of Tobin Bell and Lance Henriksen, who's our token person who's in everything.
Sponsor of our show.
Yeah. I love Lance Henriksen. If you ever want to see a good TV show, the darker version of X-Files, watch Millennium. Chris Carter, it's amazing.
Great show.
But yeah, The Quick and the Dead is... Oh, Gary Sinise. So the basic premise is that Sharon Stone, when she was a little girl, her father was a sheriff or something like that, and the bandits led by Gene Hackman put him up on a cross or something like that, and he had a noose around his neck, and they say to the little girl, if you can shoot the rope, then your daddy will live. And of course, she shoots her father, played by Gary Sinise, square in the head because she's 6 and she doesn't know how to use a 6-shooter. So years later, Gene Hackman's the owner of this town. He's the beyond lore. He is king. He's got all these sharpshooters. He's got all this money, and he's just El Jefe. It's like Tony Soprano if he owned a town in the West. And he's decided to have this quick draw competition where he'll get the best quick draws from out the United States to have a quick draw competition. The winner gets all this money. And Leonardo DiCaprio plays his illegitimate son, and he wants to be seen as being relevant in his father's eyes because his father's never actually claimed him. So Leonardo DiCaprio is the quick drawer. You've got Russell Crowe, who used to be this leader of the gang, who rode with Gene Hackman and then went preachy. He becomes a priest.
Yeah, I remember him being a priest of some kind.
And the idea with Russell Crowe is that he's beaten and then dragged throughout the town, and they go, take part in the quick draw. And he's like, no, I'm a pacifist now. I'm not going to do anything like that. And they're all going to have this draw. They have competitions on this blackboard. And when the clock hits, I think, 12 o'clock or whatever it is, they draw and they fire. And Russell Crowe has said, no, I'm never going to draw. The guy gives him a gun, and he puts one bullet in, and he goes, yeah, fair enough, you can say that now, but when the clock hits 12, you're either going to draw or you're going to die. And Russell Crowe wants to survive, so he does it. Now, the other thing is that Russell Crowe fights against this guy who's a guy who can't be killed. Who's this Indian chief who has this curse. He's this guy cannot be killed by a white man's bullet. So he shoots him in the chest, and then he's only got one bullet. And it's just what? What do you do? And there's this blind boy who, sells bullets, and he's trying to find the right caliber throughout this entire crate of bullets to throw to Russell Crowe, even though he's blind, to put in his gun so he can shoot the Indian guy who can't be killed in the head. It's amazing. The whole time is that Russell Crowe and Sharon Stone have been having this love affair, and she's taken part in this quick draw competition. And unbeknownst to everyone, Sharon Stone is that little girl that was made to kill her father all those years ago, and she gets her revenge on Gene Hackman. Now, the issue being that we've got little nuggets of information here and there, but we don't actually really know it's a revenge film until the last reel, the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I love this film because it's 90s Western with, I think, Everyone's Got an Oscar. Like, what was it? Gene Hackman's got a 1 or 2 from, like, French Connection and all that stuff. Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sharon Stone was nominated for at least Casino. And it's just like, yep, you've got the best actors you can get, and you've got the director of Evil Dead of all things. And it's this hyper crazy Western where everyone's just shooting each other. I love it, but I don't know if it's a typical revenge film.
It's not. Well, as we said previously, it is a common staple to have that little twist at the end to go, oh, by the way, this was this person growing up, you know, I am Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die.
Yeah.
It's a common trope to have a character
reveal their motivation
reveal at the very end
Yeah.
that, you know, you did this to me when I was younger. This is my revenge.
Though in saying that, what you just said with Inigo Montoya doesn't make sense because he tells it throughout the entire
True.
film.
Yeah.
He does get his revenge at the end.
Yeah. But that doesn't make The Princess Bride
A revenge film. It just makes it an awesome film with a great cast.
Yeah.
Please give us money.
We sort of said at the start
That
we want to see revenge printed on the box. We want the flavor that we're promised.
It doesn't always work. Like, you look at things like Law Abiding Citizen, and I've said Law Abiding Citizen because it's good for a oncer, and it's good.
It's fine when it's on the wall, but when you look at it close up, you can
like,
see
really?
a lot of flaws.
This doesn't seem to make sense to me. But, you know, it probably grossed lots of money.
Yeah, I mean, the draw of Jamie Foxx and Jared Butler is going to put bums on seats, but it doesn't mean that it's a well-written film.
Yeah, I think Jared Butler, they add $1 million for every ab you see? I think that was the 300 rule, which is why it's just like, how many abs can we see?
We've painted on at least 6.
Yeah.
The other one that we had discussed was Man on Fire.
Yeah.
As a revenge film, which it is and it isn't. Like, it's a kidnapping story, with Denzel Washington playing a bodyguard to a 10-year-old Dakota Fanning who gets kidnapped, and which prompts him to go on a homicidal spree, killing everyone in Mexico, apparently. But it's 2.5 hours long. Dakota gets kidnapped about 45 minutes into the start, and it just loses momentum so quickly without her influence. It just grinds to a halt of Denzel shooting people and setting stuff on fire, and it becomes unwatchable. So,
I haven't seen this film. It's one of those films whereby I keep on meaning to see it, but then I think, no, I'd rather watch this.
There's a reason for that.
For some reason, I feel like I've seen the end whereby, spoiler alert, Dakota gets rescued, but he ends up dead.
Yes, correct.
So I guess it's really revenge for the kidnapping rather than, say, the death of someone.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So
which I do like. Like, I don't like that it always has to be that the female character gets raped and or murdered.
Well, I mean, he didn't know.
To prompt... He did think throughout the
dead.
majority of it that she was dead. But, yeah, it's...
Oh, so that was a thing. So it's not like there were ransom notes and stuff like that?
At the start, there was.
But then they stopped?
Yeah, because they didn't deliver the money properly and they killed her, apparently.
Yeah.
But, yeah, because he's a businessman, he didn't actually kill her. He kept her alive.
Yeah.
And was able to barter for his life or, increase his life.
There's a whole bunch of, like when we talk about Taken is, you know, they've kidnapped his daughter and, you know, he's in some ways he's getting revenge because of the kidnapping, but also because he's following through on his promise of he will find you and, you know, all that stuff. Ransom, you know, in some ways there's like the kidnapping and, you know, people getting their just desserts and stuff like that.
The Punisher TV series is also one we could discuss. It's
well, beyond the TV series, you got the Dolph Lundgren film of the early 90s, and then you've got the what is his name? Thomas Jane against John Travolta in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
I love that film.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It was fun.
Oh no! It was
Once
a
again, for me, it was
flaming
actually...
garbage can.
The reason why I like that film is the universe. Like, the fact that he's got an apartment and he's got, like, a giant fat guy as one guy, and then he's got Ben Foster filled with like a million different earrings, and then he's got Rebecca James Stamos or whatever, and they're all like helping him out. It was just one of those things where it felt like it was Team Discovery Channel, because this guy's got no superpowers really, he's just got a whole bunch of guns.
Yeah.
And Travolta for me is like one of the best people who can play a bad guy. You look at Broken Arrow, you look at Face Off, you look at, I know people are going to bag me, Battlefield Earth, or To Paris with Love, or whatever it is, or Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Travolta plays a good bad guy.
Because you believe that he is crazy.
That is true.
It's very easy to believe that Travolta has a couple of screws loose.
I guess what I'm saying is, when I look at The Punisher with Thomas Jane and Travolta, I don't think it's a festering pile of shit. My standards might be different to other people. I mean... There is another one called Punisher Warzone, where the lead actor is actually quite talented, but the film's a piece of crap. The lead actor is in Dexter and in Rome. In Rome, he's one of the leads. In Dexter, he's in like the last season, whereby he's actually getting revenge against Dexter because Dexter killed his lover. Dexter killed his male lover, who was his life, his everything. And the guy who plays the Punisher is gay, but he's like 7 feet tall and a man mountain, and that's why they cast him in the Punisher Warzone. But in that last season of Dexter, he's getting punishment against Dexter because Dexter killed his boyfriend, and the entire season is about him getting punishment and retribution and revenge. And the ironic kind of thing about it is that they become friends. They become friends, but they know that they kind of have to face off against each other. Yeah. They have this moment, like in John Wick 2, where they're sitting at this bar and they're kind of like, so we got to do this thing. And yeah, they've mirrored it in John Wick 2, which is obviously you can't hurt people on the continental grounds and all that stuff, which is one of the best things about John Wick 2. Mm-hmm. But Dave loves Man on Fire. Dave, or I'm not sure if he was just saying he likes setting people on fire.
It's also a possibility.
Or seeing men on fire. Either way, yeah.
Bizarre fetish.
Yep.
He watches, Fantastic Four and he's like, that Johnny Blaze.
I did like Denzel's passion in fucking people up, really.
Yeah.
It was good.
And to be honest, I haven't seen it, but I love a walking. I love going for a walk.
That was good, yeah.
I'm not doing another Christopher Walken impression. You all laughed at me.
Please do.
I'm pretty sure you didn't really do one the first time.
It was bad.
It was interesting because he was like... Would you say he co-starred it? But like, not even. But he
very
played,
small role. Yeah.
But it played
very small.
I don't know. It really added to the movie. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that small role.
It's always good to see Christopher Walken.
Yeah. I love a walking in Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
He's so bad in that.
He's so good in that film.
So good in it as being a bad guy.
So good at being bad. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're going to wrap it up from here. Thank you for listening. Engage with us on Facebook. Please get in touch. Let us know what your feelings about revenge films are, what you think constitutes a revenge film, whether you're on board with a final act twist for revenge. And as we say every week, you can fix that in post.